Once there was a nation that could. It began somewhere in the summer of 1953 in Detroit. A change was in the air. Reverend Albert B. Clegg Jr., after an unfortunate conflict of interest, decided that he would leave the St. Mark's Presbyterian Church he pastored to strike out on his own. A small remnant of his former congregants followed him, and they began meeting in their homes until they could raise the funds to purchase a church building. Reverend Clegg began to weave the black experience of struggle into his interpretation of Christianity, and a new theological foundation slowly emerged. By 1967, he had published his first book of 17 sermons reflecting Christianity from the perspective of the black experience, in an effort to change the old traditional black church into a new black church that was relevant to black folks' struggle for freedom, justice, and power. On Easter Sunday of that same year, Reverend Clegg unveiled the famous chancel mural of the Black Madonna, as portrayed by Glanton Dowdell. After that historic and controversial event, we were truly on our way.
We are on our way. On our way to build a nation. We are on our way. Yeah, we're on our way to build a nation. When we build our nation, we will shout and tell the story how we made it over. Yeah, we're on our way to build a nation. Ooh, 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 ooh. Yes, we're on our way to build a nation.
The unveiling of the Black Madonna heralded many other changes as the Central Congregational Church changed its name to the Shrine of the Black Madonna. That was not only the beginning of new directions, but a new program, mission, and movement that would transform black lives, one soul at a time. Once there was a nation, a black nation, founded upon the sacred principle that nothing is more sacred than the liberation of black people. Through the vision of its beloved leader and master teacher, whom we affectionately call Rev, Black Christian nationalism turned the church at the corner of Linwood and Hogarth into a hub and welcome center for all groups and organizations relevant to the black community in the city of Detroit. Rev was an old school intellectual brother who was a no-frills kind of guy, creative as all get out, and a man who was unafraid to challenge the status quo. He was a master organizer, a brilliant and critical thinker, and he knew how to channel the exuberant and often restless energies of young people who were truly hungry and thirsty for a change. And the Nationaire sang, "Black people been changing."
Black people been changing, building a nation. 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 Black people been changing, building a nation, a nation.
people been
changing, building a nation. Been changing, building a nation.
Black people been
changing, building a nation. Black people been changing, building a nation. Black people been changing. We're building a nation, a nation. Black people been changing. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
In the late 60s and early 70s, right on the heels of the Black Power movement, the Black cultural arts movement, and the fading civil rights movement, for Black people across the city of Detroit, the shrine of the Black Madonna was the place to be for Black youth eager to join in the struggle for freedom. Timeliness and popularity of his 2 books placed Rev in high demand, and he traveled far and wide during lectures on college campuses across the country. His dynamism and clear analysis of Black reality drew Black students to the Motor City in droves. In the summer of 1972, in the Black Theology Room of the Mother Shrine, Rev held a summer theological seminar where he spent 8 weeks training a cadre of 100 young leaders to spread Black Christian nationalism across America. At the end of the summer, 100 Black men and women were ordained as BCN ministers, walimus, and fundis. Rev commissioned these intelligently astute, zealous, and courageous young people, and then sent them out as apostles to spread the gospel of Black Christian nationalism to Black people everywhere. And the nation air sang, all around the world, a Black nation needs to be. All around the world, a Black nation needs to be. We really do believe. We really do believe, we really do believe, we shall be free. 15 college cadres were established at schools around the state of Michigan, as well as Chicago, Philly, and New York. 5 urban expansion cadres were established to build shrines in major cities. What time was it? It was nation time. The BCN 10-year projection was developed in response to the Kerner Commission report on civil disobedience in 1968, which concluded as a result of the rebellions across America in the late 60s. The Kerner Commission report said America stood at a crossroads. Either it would have to deal with centuries of injustice and inhumanity toward African Americans or prepare for war and a technological future that would inevitably displace manual labor, rendering millions of unskilled laborers obsolete. I don't have to tell you what they decided to do. They launched the war on poverty, followed by the war on drugs, followed by the creation of a school-to-prison pipeline and the warehousing of Black males into plantation prisons nationwide. What did we do? Well, Rev taught us that power resides in institutions and not in individuals. And so we began to develop counter-institutions essential to a Pan-African communal society. We built a Kiba Land Nursery and a Kiba Land Academy, student movement, youth corps, Jael and Machaka, and later came the Mtoto House, all working to raise a new generation of skilled, talented, and self-aware young Black folks who could go out into the world and make a difference for their people. We built both urban and rural communes, the National Training Center, the residence halls and apartments, the communal budget, the missionary and community outreach programs, learning day to day how to practice communal values and to build a nation for ourselves. The Shrine Cultural Center and Bookstore became the hub of every community we resided in. Black authors, writers, scholars, historians, professors, teachers, Black athletes and entertainers, everybody who was anybody came into the orbit of our sacred circle and instantly knew that they were in the presence of a radically different group of black folks. Our walk was different. Our talk was different. Our belief in the goodness of our people was unlike anything they had ever encountered in America before. The Maccabees marched to a strong and powerful cadence and chanted together, everywhere we go, people want to know who we are, where we come from. So we tell them, we are the Maccabees, the mighty, mighty Maccabees, rough, tough Maccabees. Am I right or wrong? Are we weak or strong? Sound off, Mojo and Billy, sound off, tattoo and they break it on down. Mojo and Billy, tattoo and they, Mojo and Billy, tattoo and they. BCN vowed to take the black church in new directions, both north and south. New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Houston, Texas, Los Angeles, California, Atlanta, Georgia, as a new leadership vanguard with the only practical answer to black oppression in America. Our work had only just begun. In the spring of 1973, the student movement had begun piloting a new form of nation fundraising. Every Saturday morning, we were sent downtown Detroit with KFC buckets to collect donations to help transform urban ghettos into Christian communities. After several months of testing the waters, it became official, and missionary outreach was born. All praise is due to the genius and creativity of our beloved matriarch, Cardinal Nandi Barbara Martin. So we began to build countless institutions that could serve the needs of our community. The Atlanta College Cadre number 14 left Detroit in 1973, and by 74, in conjunction with the small but mighty Ingenia Cadre, masters of the skilled trades, we began laying the foundation for our first shrine in the Dirty South. And what time was it? It was nation time. The second BCN Synod was held in April 1975, and Shrine 9 opened its doors with 35 expansion cadre members and over 75 Atlanta College Cadre students representing the ITC, Clark Atlanta University, Morehouse, Spelman, and Morris Brown colleges. In the early 70s, change was the buzzword. Black people been changing, change or die. BCN was a black church change agent. Donnell Lee, Hakeem Mahabuti told us, change. Like if you were a match, I would light you into something beautiful. Change for the better into a real together thing. Change, I say, change into a real black righteous aim. Change into a necessary black self. Change like a gas meter getting higher. Change like a blues song talking about a righteous tomorrow. Change like a good sister getting better. Change, know the real enemy. Change. You got to change from your slave culture ways and develop a true revolutionary mindset. If you joined the movement in the 70s, it was as if you had magically walked into a change factory. There were so many new iterations of the nation. You had to be there to see what was going to happen next so you wouldn't be left behind. The BCN Creed, the BCN Code, the BCN Lifestyle, the BCN Covenant, the BCN Chains of Pledge, the BCN Triangles. BCN was a unique and remarkable training lab, classes, lectures, orientation, study, research, and development. There was something going on all the time. It almost felt like being at a HBCU on speed dial. We worked, we partied, we studied. We worked, we partied, we trained. We worked, we partied, we studied. We partied some more. Everything was planned and organized and thought through thoroughly. Times were good. Sometimes they were real good because we were growing, evolving, building, giving, struggling in a way that was contagious to anyone who came into the midst of our sacred circle. The energy was sky high, and sacrifice for the greater good was the foundation of our communal value system. The Black Messiah Jesus was our standard bearer and revolutionary example for living a life of service to our people. A whole cadre of revolutionary-minded brothers and sisters came down from Chicago, led by Walimu Unchiku. Another group of about 35 strong, led by Brother Sekou Omawale, left their homes in Philly and moved to Detroit, never looking back. Shrine number 2 on the east side was built on Mack and Burns. We were young, vibrant, unstoppable, and self-determined. Shrine 3 over on the west side, Wyoming and 7 Mile. We were young, flexible, and full of creativity, adaptability, and resilience. Shrine 4 was where our BCN printing press was housed on Conant. And then came Shrine 5 on Broad Street. Shrine 6 hailed from a little place called Kankakee, Illinois. April 1975. The sun stood still, the wind ceased to blow, and the waters parted as a group of 40 highly disciplined, highly trained, and highly committed young black folks, better known as the Atlanta Expansion Cadre, along with hundreds of black Christian nationalists, took the city of Atlanta by storm. The BCN convention in Atlanta was truly a wonder to behold. We lifted up the names of the faithful soldiers committed to the cause of nation building. Colonel Abdul, Sister Morinike, Major Bambata, Bishop Chimba Chui, Captain Mwandu, Sergeant Kasimu, Corporal Sahinish, Sergeant Zozar, Sister Mandisha, Fundi Motisala, Fundi Nasoma, Bishop Ayana Abi, Bishop Lindiwe, Cardinal Somdai Nairi, Fundi Anika Tene, Bishop Hawanya, Fundi Anika Sala, Captain Karamoko, Bishop Ashibear, Brother Kwame, Sergeant Sanguru, Brother Man Atiba, Walimu Sekou, Bishop Dijanaba, Bishop Kenyatta, Bishop Mbayu, Brother Olade Ende, Brother Takuma, Brother Seun, Fundi Nayeti, Fundi Migoso, Bishop Tariq, Sergeant Eusi, Cardinal Amanifu, Bishop Abanesta, Major Colomo, Bishop Judas, Kojo, Brother Atiba Hill, Brother Ajimu, Brother Tariq King, Brother Changa, Sister Idrisa. Every night of the convention was an evening with BCN, and dozens joined our ranks, and the fine Shrine 9 went from just a tiny spark to a full-blown shine. To follow up such an event was hard, but not impossible. For just 2 years later, in 1977, we did it all over again when we stepped into Houston, Texas, and opened the friendly Shrine number 10. And with all of these institutions, we had to have a powerful security force to protect them. The Holy Order of the Maccabees became one of the most revered and respected institutional mechanisms in our organization. We are the Maccabees. We began discussing the kibbutz model for rearing children in 1973. And our first Mtoto house didn't officially open until 1978. We used the creative arts as a major vehicle to raise the consciousness of our people. There were plays like the Ebony Ritual, Everything Else is Jive, and the African Heritage Festival. Then we had weekly creative worships, complete with psychedelic lights, strobes, slide presentations, music, dance, and drama. There was psychohistory and psychodrama, which led to core disciplines, meditation, prayer, fasting, chanting, drumming, dancing, movement, and massage. A year later, in 1978, at the convention held in Houston, Texas, we went from one long name, the Shrines of the Black Madonna, to the Shrines of the Black Madonna of the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church, the longest name not recorded in the Guinness Book of World Records. No, but there were 2 reasons Jaramogi Abebe decided to adopt a new name. One, to acknowledge the ancestral influence of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey and his Universal Negro Improvement Association and its relationship to our movement. And 2, to place special emphasis on our global mission to reach African people everywhere in the world. By the early 1980s, we had regular KUA workshops. And by the 90s, we had elevated to the KUA small group devotional. Change was our trademark. Change was our superpower. Change is what kept us moving, meaningful, and relevant to the Black community. You could be a basic training group member one day and a group leader 16 weeks later. You could be a BCN missionary today and a shrine administrator tomorrow. You could be a regular old sister or brother so-and-so one moment and Fundi such and such or Walimu whoever just a few months later. We were just a nation full of raw talent, energy, life, and power. As a Black nation that could, we have built institutions after institution. The Shrine, culture centers and bookstores, the BCN Food Co-op, the Liberation Triangle, the Power Triangle, the Divine Triangle, the KUA Triangle, Akibaland Academies, the Holy Order of the Maccabees, the Holy Order of Nzinga, my Lord, the Holy Order of Kasisi, the Holy Order of Kaumba, the Holy Order of Njimia, the BCN Law Center, the BCN Community Service Center, just to name a few. Just when it seemed like we had reached our plateau, our founder, most cherished vision slowly began to come into fruition. After years and years of saving, fundraising, praying, and expecting, we finally found and purchased a place to call our own. And like Brother Moses, who had struggled hard with the African nation Israel and led them all the way to the gates of the Promised Land, our beloved founder took us to the gates of Calhoun Falls, South Carolina, and less than a year later made his transition to the realm of the ancestors. A good and faithful servant of the Most High, he had done so much more than his duty to Black people at home and abroad. In the days and months after his passing, I began to wrestle, as did many others, with the thought of what is the Holy Spirit calling me to do to honor his great legacy. Well, the answer came just a few months later. Take the name of the Black nation to our motherland, Africa, and sow the seeds of a Pan-African network, a Pan-African world community. And about a month later, without any discussion with anybody about what I felt God was calling me to do, I received a phone call from our presiding bishop, Jeramogi Menelik Kimati. He said, Mbiyu, I need you to go to Africa. You know, sometimes like Jonah, you don't really expect God to call you and send you somewhere. I resisted at first because it was so unexpected. But despite my resistance, there I was in Benin, West Africa in January 2000. Since the year 2000, when our Pan-African ministry missionary work first began, we have been making inroads into establishing a Pan-African network, beginning first with Benin from 2000 to 2007, working with a non-governmental organization called Pan-Africa, and then moving slowly into Ghana in 2008, all the way up to the present. And then in 2011, we built our first church in Monrovia, Liberia. In 2013, we opened our second church in Ganta City. And after 9 years of life doing what life does, in 2023, we released a documentary film produced by the Swedish Film Institute and NBN, which chronicles our efforts in both Monrovia and Ganta City, Liberia. In 2019, we set up a new partnership with a group of young Black professionals in Lagos, Nigeria, under the leadership of O.J. Osayame. In 2023, we began building our first school in Ganta City. And in that same year, we started laying the groundwork to establish a sister-to-sister partnership between Wayne County, Michigan, and Nimba County, Liberia, to provide support and educational and healthcare resources to local Liberians. Today in 2024, the Pan-African Ministry Department is planning to expand our global footprint by establishing our presence in 5 additional countries across the Pan-African diaspora, including Canada, South America, the Caribbean, and 2 additional countries in Africa. As our Pan-African footprint expands and grows, we are laying the foundation for a worldwide movement of Black determination, independence, and freedom. Our legacy to Black people is that for over 70 years, we have stayed the course. Our legacy is that we have boldly gone where no other Black organization, church, or group has ever gone before. Our legacy is that we have been a model of material standards, communal values, organizational discipline, and selflessly dedicated leadership. Our legacy is that we have created an institutional blueprint for Black power. Our legacy is that we have raised a generation of some of the most beautiful, communal, conscientious, talented, and resilient children and young people the world has ever seen. Our legacy is that we have done everything possible to leave our people in a better state than when we first inherited it. And a sense of unlimited possibilities now exists through our best self philosophy and movement. Our legacy is that we have liberated Christianity from its Western individualism and restored it to its original heritage as one out of many, many thousands of African religions. Our legacy is that we have learned to move mountains with faith just the size of a mustard seed. All of the golden institutional mechanisms we have built with our own Black hands are forever preserved in the annals of our rich organizational legacy. But like any legacy, it's only as valuable as our ability and willingness to pass it down to a new generation. And as we pass on this legacy, we must always remember that we are standing on the shoulders of ancestral giants. Brothers and sisters who founded the Central Congregational Church, determined to recapture, record, and relate the history and culture of Black people in a positive manner. Yes, our roots are strong. Our legacy is powerful. In 1960, Reverend Clegg, along with his brothers Hugh and Henry, helped launch the organization of the Illustrated News. The Illustrated News was a bold and courageous newspaper speaking on behalf of Black people, putting Rev right at the center of the Black community's problems and conflicts. Rev called for Black pride, Black economic self-help, and Black independent political action. He didn't just talk or write about it. He helped organize the Freedom Now Party. Then he ran for governor in the state of Michigan, followed by the launching of the 3+1 campaign and the 4 and No More project, all raising the political awareness of Black folks across the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan. All of these community initiatives pushed Rev into the national and international spotlight as leadership in the Black struggle. He was the subject of news and magazine articles in every major newspaper from Cairo, Egypt, to London, England, to New York, New York. In spite of all the publicity and notoriety, Rev remained loyal to the rapidly growing movement, rarely missing a Sunday morning to give a message to the Black nation. Rev trained and mentored countless leaders to help move our people forward. It was the indomitable Black Heritage Committee, established in 1966 under the masterful leadership of Walimu Ed Vaughn, who embarked upon the noble task of teaching Black people that Christianity is an African religion. And at its core, it charges us to do something about the oppression, misery, and discrimination of our people worldwide. Their first step in setting the record straight began with the commissioning of the chancel mural of the Black Madonna by a local black artist. Their second project was to record and distribute some of Rev's prophetic sermons so that black people throughout the world could share with us the great teachings of our beloved founder. And so on Sunday, November 19th, 1967, at a meeting with the entire church body, plans for expansion were revealed and the concept of a black nation was born. After the rebellions took place July 23rd in the city of Detroit, black folks were ripe for a message of self-determination and self-empowerment. Next, the Heritage Committee set up a food distribution site to feed those displaced by the rebellion. They helped our people find new homes, as well as friends and family that had gotten lost during the melee. A citywide People's Tribunal was held by the Citywide Citizens Action Committee to properly try police officers and National Guard troops who brutally executed several young men in the Algiers motel during the rebellion. In spite of many threats to every description to both Reverend Clegg and the Shrine, they knew it was God's will that they followed the example of the Black Messiah, Jesus, and called the black nation together. To honor the African tradition of celebrating our ancestors, they established an annual memorial service for Brother Malcolm X to be held every year since his death. Our beloved founder truly had a tremendous vitality, stamina, and dedication to the needs and welfare of black people. They provided new directions for the black church, making our primary mission black folks struggle for freedom by giving service to the black community. And so we celebrate our founders, knowing that our ancestral stock is good, and their energy continues to fuel our efforts even generations into this present space, where our legacy meets our future. Our most essential task now is to make sure our legacy transcends our very lifetimes. As we reimagine our powerful organizational movement and all of our institutional resources, they will begin to take on new direction and purpose, but will not lose their value and meaning in any way. In today's reality, many of them will even prove to be more useful now than they were in the past. What made us a force to be reckoned with in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s will again make us so in the 21st century. An emphasis must be placed on the consciousness raising of the next generation and the structuring of a virtual process for training and development of young black minds everywhere in this world. Just as YouTube is effectively its own university, we too can create a virtual black university for developing young, revolutionary, and creative black minds. In the process of becoming a nation within a nation, we have amassed a wealth of knowledge in the form of formal writings and position papers, including the BCN position, the BCN program and teaches, the Black Church as a change agent, the BCN group process, the BCN body of knowledge, the BCN interpretation of history, the BCN worldview, the BCN basis of judgment, the BCN statement of faith, the BCN message and mission, the African science of renewal and rebirth, also known to us as KUA, the KUA small group devotional system, the Akibaland nursery transformational system, the Mtoto House educational system for rearing black children in a communal environment, and a host of other theological, programmatic, historical, and spiritual works. We have a great legacy. We have volumes of materials from African history, black theology, and contemporary black reality, as well as over a dozen souvenir booklets full of educational materials developed during our leadership enclaves, conventions, and synods over the past 50 years. These are just a few of the gifts we have to offer the black community. But one of our greatest impacts on the black community in general and the African diaspora as a whole has been through the Shrine's bookstore, and cultural centers. The preservation of Black art, artifacts, jewelry, clothing, books, history, and culture has never been as meaningfully and intentionally available in the way that the Shrine Cultural Centers have given service with Black excellence and grace since our beloved ancestral patron saint, in the personhood of Cardinal Barbara Nandi Martin, first took the helm back in 1970. She set a high standard of Black business distinction that has rarely been matched in our community from then to now. Our cultural centers have been graced by the likes of the world's most well-known and celebrated Black historians, teachers, professors, authors, writers, entertainers, athletes, politicians, students, and down-home community folks. Far too numerous to count. Everybody who's anybody has at some point touched base at the Shrine Cultural Centers, whether in Detroit, Atlanta, or Houston. Our famous Dara brand has been good to us, but our challenge now is to reimagine that brand in light of a new social reality. Somebody say change is inevitable. Former President Barack Obama said it like this: change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are the change that we seek, end quote. Over the years of our cultural centers, we have grown, expanded, evolved, and adapted to a changing clientele and a changing need or void and a changing world. Our task now, should we choose to accept it, is to update, review, revisit, reimagine, and renew our entire archival legacy, our brand, our program, our mission, our group life, our vision for the future, our total movement, in order to make it transferable to millennials, Gen Z, and the Alpha generation, and all those who will come after us. The change mindset, or as we call it today, the growth mindset, is what has kept us here as an organization for the last 70+ years. Change as it relates to our personal ability to become who we already are, utilizing a variety of group processes. Change as it relates to the core healing therapies, rituals, and sacramental life, and the spiritual disciplines have all helped us to overcome a slave mentality rooted in self-hatred and the acceptance of the myth of white predominance. The Holy Spirit continues to call us into the fiery winds of change. Change as it relates to adapting to a shifting world and its ever-evolving cultural and social conditions. Change as it relates to building solid networks, coalitions, and partnerships with like-minded Black folks who share our vision of a Pan-African world community with power. If we had not been able to change and remain open to a growth process for this long, we never would have made it this far. Yes, we are not everything we ought to be, but the Most High knows we are definitely not what we used to be. We've come a long, long, long way. Yes, we made all kinds of errors, poor decisions, and even crazy ones at times. For example, although we raised a powerful generation of young people through Total House and Akibaland Academy, we did not really prepare our youth for leadership in our own organizational future. While our missionary outreach program has been robust and brought us many, many treasures, it could not fuel our mission into perpetuity. Thanks to our tried and true full-time missionaries, also known as the Mighty Essenes, making the ultimate sacrifice for voluntarily taking a vow of poverty and giving themselves totally to the mission of the liberation struggle, where would we be? The Essenes are truly the most dedicated Black missionaries the world has ever known. And so we say Ashe, and we celebrate our Essenes for their endless sacrifices and commitment in the liberation struggle of Black people. They lived by the creed that says, when you have done everything you were told to do, say, we are merely servants. We have done no more than our duty. It is because of the holy order of the Essenes that we have been able to do so many great and phenomenal things in the service of our people. And so we will never forget to remember and celebrate them always as the heart and soul of the Black nation and the very lifeblood of our sacred fellowship. In hindsight, we recognize that MOR didn't take into account that we would need another money-generating operation before we all got too old to do it. We didn't look far enough into the future to recognize these times were coming, but through it all, the mission has remained intact. Can anybody say God has been good? She's been just that good. Neil Allen and Joel Gershenfield, in their book, Designing Reality, said over the past 50 years, the digital revolutions of computing and communications has transformed our world. They've led to unprecedented productivity, generated enormous wealth, and fundamentally altered everyday life. But these revolutions also left a great many people behind. Today, half of the planet is not connected to the internet. Inequality is on the rise, and threats to privacy and security emerge daily. The world has changed drastically, and if we are to remain relevant and accessible to the needs, problems, and issues facing Black people, we too must continue to evolve and grow. In the words of our beloved brother, Dr. Malana Karanga, history is a vital resource and indeed an arsenal of knowledge for our struggle, from which we can draw to protect and promote our humanity and conceive, fashion, and forge a future in the cultural image and human interests of our people. When we are armed with the knowledge of our past, we can, with confidence, chart a course for our future, end quote. Likewise, when we regularly acknowledge, listen, and invite the presence of our ancestral lineage, the higher communion of saints, we are better spiritually equipped to face the challenges of tomorrow. Through all the years of our struggle, we have said goodbye to many of our cherished comrades, warriors, and soldiers of the struggle. This story would not be complete without a brief pause to remember all of their sacrifices, suffering, and struggle that has carried us through this difficult process of evolutionary change. God knows, and the Holy Spirit does too, that we did a lot of great things in the past, but life and culture dictate that we must move forward and carry those things that are still relevant into a brighter tomorrow. When legacy meets future, the process of reimagining, revisiting, and renewing becomes automatic. Truth be told, we don't need to have all the answers to begin addressing the difficult parts of our past or shaping a new direction for the future. We have many lessons learned through which our institutional building legacy, which still has relevance for our struggle today. For example, the idea to purchase some land, to have a safe space and a sacred space, a duwara, upon which we can expand our lifestyle and value system and develop a true counterculture for Black people, as they say in the business world, was a game changer. It took our nation building process to a whole new level. We acquired a special piece of earth called Beulah land. We remember those who helped to raise the funds needed to purchase Beulah land.